Well, it's 8 o'clock. We're going to go and call the meeting to order. If other ones come in, that'll be fine. We need to get going. Some of us have some other things to get to this morning as well. I want to thank everybody for being here this morning. Everybody's got different commitments, but we appreciate y'all being here today. Bill, would you mind doing a quick prayer?
We thank you for all your many blessings you've bestowed upon us. Continue to bless our country and our state, and please bless those who are serving our country overseas. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Well, I got anybody else in the audience want to sign up to speak today, ma'am? Okay. Just want to make sure. All right. Well, we only have one item on the agenda today, so Representative Cantrell, if you'd like to come up here and go ahead and present your resolution up here at the podium, please. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations on your chairing this subcommittee. As the former chair of the Small Business Committee, I can tell you that the thing that I heard during my term was workforce development. Workforce development, workforce development. That was the common theme from business owners all over Georgia, was we got to have a competent workforce. And the piece that's missing is kind of that lower, on the lower end. I hate to use that term lower end because there's no lower, one job's not lower than another, but you know what I mean. And so we began talking about this last year while I was chairing the committee, and COVID kind of got in the way. But we wanted to look at foreign-born Georgians and how, and to see, what is our state doing that might be hindering their ability to get meaningful employment. And because, 1 out of 10 Georgians is foreign-born. And, we want Georgia is known, we want it to continue to be known as a welcoming state where hardworking people of all walks of life can live, work, and thrive. And so we've got some outdated and inappropriate regulations that are causing some of our skilled and talented foreign-born Georgians to leave for other states where the regulations aren't quite as severe. So we want to kind of have a study committee that would look at those things and make appropriate recommendations to the General Assembly as to things that we could do that would open up our economy more to the skilled workforce that's here, and to remove any of those inappropriate and unnecessary barriers that are keeping them from being able to do what they could do and contribute in even a bigger way to what's happening in our state. And you guys know this, that if a person can't find meaningful employment, it's very likely bad things can happen. Let's just put it that way. If a person's not in a job that they enjoy or can't get work, then they're going to find a way to make money because they have to have money to live. And that's what this resolution's all about: exploring barriers to accessing global talent in Georgia, to create new business among Georgia's global communities. We want to review our best practices here in Georgia, make sure we're doing all we can. The study committee could come back with a glowing report and say, hey, Georgia's doing it right. We don't see any adjustments that need to be made. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think we'll find some things that are staying in the way. And I can give you a few examples. One would be someone coming from overseas who has a career in security. And if they get in Georgia, they're not allowed to work in security because they don't have they're not a citizen. Tennessee has removed that regulation and has opened up a lot of security jobs for foreign-born people that live in Tennessee. We need more truck drivers. We've got some impediments to getting a CDL for someone who's foreign-born. So there's just a couple of examples of things that we could possibly address, and I'm sure we'll uncover more things like that. But it's pretty simple. Happy to answer any questions you might have, and I know we have at least one that would like to speak to it. I think someone from the chamber was supposed to be here, but I don't know if they... Doesn't look like they've arrived. But that's about it, unless you guys got questions.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Representative Cantrell? Lyrica?
Boom, you're in. Well, the light's on.
Well, there's just a few of us right here. They actually watch live feeds. I can almost shake his hand. But, anyway, you know, in our first Small Business Development Committee, Scott Hilton spoke to us from the governor's, Georgia's first
Right.
commissioner, Georgia's, and part of what they do, or a lot of what they do, is exactly this.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had, so if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, kind of a two-part question, and I know you, I'm sure you have, and I know you think about all these things, but have you had this conversation with Scott and with the governor's team? Because a lot of what you're referring to here is compounded in rural Georgia, where there are jobs available, but for whatever reason, people are not locating in those smaller, more rural communities to fill those jobs. And so I would just, that would be the first part of the question. The second one was that you had identified a few areas in here, and you mentioned people that were not born here, or, you know, people that were from, and so that is uniquely a metro issue. You know, we again, compared.
Primarily, yeah.
Primarily compared to, because I know Gwinnett County, I think they speak almost 100 different languages, and so, have you spoken with Scott Hilton, and how can we make sure that on this study committee that we cover some of those problems that are uniquely rural, you know?
That's a great, we need a couple things. Yes, in fact, I went and spoke to the Georgians First group last term, some of these very issues, and maybe they could help us in this. We need to have representation on this committee that would represent rural Georgia, so that they're not alone. My heart for this really came out of visiting Clarkston, and you know, where all the world is in Clarkston. Our church has a ministry there, and then I met a couple of small business owners who are training refugees primarily in skills there at a little kind of a job training. And it's frustrating for them because sometimes the person develops the skills, but then there's nowhere to implement their skill because of some hurdles that are in the way. So that group, Amplio is the name of that group, they would play a major role in helping us identify what are the specific barriers, and then the committee would have to figure out, can we address those barriers appropriately or not? There are probably some barriers that we can't overcome, but I think there's many that we can, that were unintentional. And we're focusing on folks that are here lawfully. These are not illegal folks. These are lawful folks. So, but driver's license was another issue I wanted to mention earlier. That's a big deal for a lot of people. They find work, but then they can't get there. They gotta get an Uber or a taxi every time they go, and it cuts into the pay that they're making. So that's another issue that needs a fresh look to find out, are we barring people from driver's licenses that ought to be able to have one, even if it's temporary, to get back and forth to employment?
Thank you. Representative Jenner?
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, you beat me to it. I was going to say that I've represented the city of Clarkston for 20 plus years, and it's the most diverse square mile in the entire country.
Oh, yeah.
And I appreciate you bringing forward this particular piece of legislation. My only suggestion is, this may surprise you, but the Mercatus Center, we receive lots of emails from, I think the lady's name is Tia Jacobson.
Oh, yeah,
There-
yeah. Mm-hmm.
There seems to be a lot of information that they've collected academically on maybe not this issue, but a lot of issues related to what you were just saying. And I just wanted to refer you to that as a resource.
Well, you might be a great candidate to serve on this committee.
Representative Mix?
I don't think I get to make that choice, but
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My only question is December 1 of this year enough time to, given the restrictions that we have on meeting, is that going to give you think?
you know, that's a great point. I don't know. I think it will. I think the off-season should give us enough time.
Okay.
But with COVID, you know, you never know. So I may have to renew next year if we get, you know, somehow sidetracked by COVID.
Okay, and just to echo the words of Mr. Roy LaRicchia here, you know, make sure we have some folks from rural Georgia represented on this study committee. Thank you.
Great
Thank you,
point.
Mr. Chairman.
Representative Tanner.
Harvin.
Okay, we're good. Are there any more questions? Okay.
One more question. Would you rather have it December 31st instead of December 1st?
Yeah, definitely give us the last month. I don't know I think all of these are typically calendar year, the study committees, and that's why it was written that way. But yeah, December 31st would be better than December 1st if, you know, it's possible that we could meet in December. So if somebody wanted, that'd be a friendly amendment if somebody wanted to make that motion. In Clarkston.
Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time, I'd move to amend line 97 and change from December 1 to December 31, 2021.
Okay. All those in favor? To the amendment?
Thank you for
Any
that.
opposed?
That's a good catch.
Okay. All right, there's a couple of people who would like to speak to the thing. Darlene, would you like to come up here and speak? Thank you.
Hello all, I'm Darlene Lynch. I'm here today representing the BIG Partnership, which is a new partnership of business and immigration leaders coming together to strengthen Georgia by tapping the potential in our global communities. So we're excited. We have more than 24 folks on this new partnership, including the Hispanic Chamber, Refuge Coffee, which Representative Jenner is probably familiar with, to New American Pathways, to the Center for Victims of Torture, to Vaughn Lumber, to Amplio Recruiting. So a broad mix of business associations, immigration associations, and companies. And we support H.R. 11. We think it's an opportunity to really maximize all the talent that Georgia has in its foreign-born communities. As Representative Cantrell noted, 1/10 of Georgia's population is foreign-born, but 1/7 of Georgia's workforce is foreign-born. What we learned in our community working with the refugee and immigrant population is that there are a lot of barriers still to these folks engaging in their communities. And we've seen people leave the state. We've seen a lot of people taking jobs that are below their skill levels. And we've seen businesses come to our community asking for help. So Representative Cantrell mentioned, for instance, Amplio Recruiting is a for-profit recruiting firm, and they specialize in connecting Georgia businesses with refugee workers. And they've actually seen an increase in their business this year because manufacturing and distribution are up in Georgia, and they are coming to Clarkston for those workers. These workers are often experienced, reliable, motivated, and they come for that to employ those folks. So while we've had a great demand from the business community and a real welcome from Georgia's communities to foreign-born people, our regulations seem to be a little bit out of date. And it's causing some folks to not contribute in the way they could. So I'm just going to tell you a few stories that we experienced on our side. Recently, we had a couple, they were both dentists from Iraq, and they were settled in Metro Atlanta. They wanted to become dentists here, but they moved to Alabama because they had a program where international dentists could recertify quickly, and it would take them half the time to re-enter their profession. And we know actually that Georgia actually needs dentists, and we've been using dentists to support the COVID relief. We had a man from Syria, a welder and a pipe fitter, speaks English very well, and he wanted to re-enter his field as an apprentice, but even though he had decades of experience, he could not navigate the system, and he now works in a kitchen in a restaurant. We had a group of Cuban physicians come to Georgia through a special program to allow Cuban doctors in the United States, and they wanted to practice medicine, but eventually left Georgia for Florida, where the process is easier. And I know where I work at the Center for Victims of Torture, I have a doctor who is serving as an interpreter for clients, and she's a physician from Eastern Europe. So I think that there's never been a better time to take a look at these regulations and see which ones are really just obstacles in front of people who want to work and who have the skills that businesses need. And as Representative Cantrell said, I'm sure there are many that are actually very beneficial, but there are going to be some that just don't serve Georgia anymore. And I think H.R. 11 will help businesses connect with global talent. And I think it's a first step toward building a real stronger, more dynamic, and more inclusive Georgia economy. And that is why we support H.R. 11. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Lynch, I have a question for you from
Sure.
Tanner.
The pipe fitter welder from Syria, is that what you said? What system did he have to navigate? Opening a new business or going to work for a union, or what are you
Well, you know, there are a couple of things. So occupational licensing is an issue that we get a lot. And so I'm not exactly sure what the licensing barriers were there.
Yeah.
But there, for instance, there are some times when you need to be a citizen as opposed to just being a legal resident. There are lots of times what we have is people have certificates from when they've been trained, and they can't get them from their country because they fled the country because of war or torture or violence. And so they don't have proof on paper, or they may have a certificate that's in a different language and they can't have it translated or can't afford to have it translated. We also know that there are restrictions in vocational training. And sometimes to get vocational training, you have to pay and enroll before you can get the benefits that help you afford it. And then there are real difficulties with English requirements. So there are many things, and I think what Representative Cantrell said, we'll probably find more as we dig into this.
Follow-up question, please. Maybe I didn't understand now is the program going to be, somebody can move here and say, maybe I'm missing it. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to understand. You know that. They can move here and say they're experienced. So this is going to, they're going to have some kind of board that says, yeah, you can go right on to work, or you're experienced enough to be a 4-year journeyman, or what? Maybe I'm confused on the welder pipe fitter thing. I don't know what his next job, her or his next job would be. Would it just to get a job or to open a business?
No, well, remember the job of the committee would be to make recommendations, not decisions. So,
Recommendations
so
to
looking into things like that,
Yeah,
and
okay.
finding out
new
what are the specific.
make the system more fluid.
Right.
Thank
and
you.
if it-
Thank you.
know, obviously, I hope we're not gonna try to just say,
No, I wasn't. I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Ms. Lynch, and thank you, Representative Lurica.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned a statistic, and I want to make sure. I couldn't find my pen, so I may have forgotten what you said before I jotted it down. Did you say that 10% of the workforce or the population is foreign born? And then you went on to say that only 7 in 10 jobs are filled by those foreign born people.
1 in 7.
1 in 7. So what that made me think about is that, and again, like Representative Tarvin, I try not to sound difficult, but I really just try to share truth, is that we don't create employees, we create opportunities, and we have several different populations where those numbers of people in the workforce are really low by choice. And I want to make sure that a part of this conversation is that we are creating opportunities for those foreign-born people, that we are not creating employees out of those foreign-born people. And I hope that your organization and AMPLO and the people like that will help us be honest in that, because what you can accidentally do is pick winners and losers. Mm-hmm. And I am always regardless of the committee, regardless of the issue, government's job is not to pick winners and losers. It is to create fair and open and transparent opportunities for everyone that wants to take advantage of them.
I agree.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
People in subcommittee, there's also a testimony in your packets that y'all grabbed when you came in, just so you know that to have that. Are there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? There's a couple that came in a little bit late. All right, come up and tell your name and who you represent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Austin Hackney, here representing the Home Builders Association of Georgia. Just wanted to take a quick opportunity to thank the sponsor, Representative Cantrell, for bringing this resolution to the committee. As y'all know, and as he mentioned in the resolution, foreign-born workforce is a vital component of the construction industry. And I'm here to tell you that the construction industry is a vital component of the state's economy. Last year, we started about 42,000 single-family homes across the state. We estimate that created about 170,000 jobs across the state, and you can guess how many of those employees were foreign-born, and they're a vital component of our industry. So wanted to say thank you for hearing this bill and voice our full support of the effort, and anything we can do to support the study committee if it gets instituted to bring any kind of data or perspective to that study committee, we'll be here to do. So just wanted to voice our support for H.R. 11.
You have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand your situation, and I understand how hard it is to find anybody to work, but maybe you can better answer my question. Not that they didn't, but I'm a little hard-headed. What could this organization do to get you a new roofer or bricklayer or the type of things that we see more and more? I mean, I can't get a roof on my house with unless I get somebody of Latino. They're doing it all now. And years ago, there weren't any rock masons. Now they're all rock masons. And that's great. I've got no problem with that. But what does this do to bring this to you? What does, if a guy can lay brick or put a roof on, what does he have to be certified through who to work for you? Maybe that's what I'm looking for.
Well, I'm hoping that that'll be the main topic of conversation for the study committee to figure out, and we'll be there to support it. I think one of the biggest things that we run into, as you mentioned, is a lack of labor in the marketplace. And so anything we can do to kind of loosen any red tape that's keeping, government regulations that are keeping that labor force from being able to get to work immediately, we'd love to attack those. And so to answer your question, I don't know what the committee can do other than make recommendations to this larger body to institute.
Well, look, just let me make sure you understand that I ran a business. I'm convinced I may get blasted for this for some of my friends, but maybe not. I think people are open-minded. We can't make it without labor from other countries.
Right.
And any country is fine with me, but I can't think of a better country than the one south of our borders, who are very much like we are.
Right.
So we have to, but I just don't know if the opportunity is not already there, and I'm going to be quiet. I know people don't believe it, but if you're looking for somebody to work, you can find somebody to work, and the problem is we haven't got enough of them, and I understand that, and I hope this helps. And I just want to publicly say, we cannot. Our future is increasing our workforce numbers because, especially in this type of work.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I think this state has done a great job of workforce development and the programs that you guys have instituted through our technical colleges and career academies. Those are great pipelines for the workforce for our industry. And hopefully the study committee could take a look at how the foreign-born workforce could take advantage of those problems, of those opportunities.
Representative Garrett?
Any idea what percentage foreign-born workforce is in the home building industry right now?
I don't have that data. I wish I did, and I wouldn't want to guess without it.
Okay.
I'm sorry to keep kind of chiming in. Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, we don't normally do this, but I'd like, is that
Screen on.
I know we don't normally do this, but Mr. Chairman, if you'd allow me, I just wanted to kind of respond to Representative Tarvin's comments. And I think where I see this potentially going is rather than being a brick mason or a roofer, he owns the company. He employs people. He's no longer an employee. And so I hear you. Listen, I was in the building industry. But the goal of what we want to do for foreign-born citizens is that they are the ones creating the employees that I was talking about earlier. So there are some barriers to, when you see the word entrepreneur, I don't think of the guy up there putting shingles on. The entrepreneur is the guy on top of the house trying to figure out how to own the house. And so that's probably the direction this is headed.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? State your name and who you represent.
Good morning. My name is Nathan Humphrey. I'm with NFIB. We represent small business here in Georgia, and just want to commend the committee, Representative Cantrell, for bringing this issue forward. We do a lot of surveys of our members, and consistently one of the top issues that comes up in these surveys is finding qualified workers for our members. And employee recruiting is one of our members and does a great job and has helped our other members find some of those skilled workers. And it's been a fantastic experience and story. And I think a study committee would be a great opportunity for some of our small businesses to come testify and share that story, and maybe some of those choke points that we could look at addressing to help both sides of this, the employer and employee. And I to echo your comments, Representative, I think that is the ultimate goal, is to be able to give a pathway where we can see more of that population own businesses. And that's the American dream. So appreciate your comments on that.
Madam Committee, have a question? You're good to go. Anyone else? All right, well, at this time, is there a motion for HR 11 to be passed as amended? Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes to the main committee. Thank y'all very much. We don't have anything else on the agenda. I hope y'all have a great day.